Right, we're going to leave that at that point. We'll come back to it in a few minutes. The UN Security Council has passed a resolution condemning Iran for its daily attacks on neighbouring states. We'll get some analysis shortly, but you've also seen that news is breaking from Beirut while that vote was taking place. Large explosions and smoke seen in Beirut. Israeli strikes have forced hundreds of thousands of people to be uprooted from their homes, not just in Beirut, but across the country over the past few days. Al Jazeera's Bernard Smith is on the line right now. Bernard, bring us up to speed with what's happening there now.
Adrian, yes, we have the largest number of strikes we've seen in the last few days, really, in Beirut. They came in over my shoulder. The Israelis issued an evacuation order earlier for Dahia, the Dahia area. That's southern Beirut behind me. So people had already left. It's a largely deserted area anyway. So yeah, there have been other strikes, of course, elsewhere in southern Lebanon as well during the day, but those were particularly forceful ones.
All right. I was saying during the introduction that a lot of people, 800,000, have been displaced. That's more than 10% of the population forced to just up and leave. Where are these people going? How are they finding shelter? Who's helping them?
So most of the people are not in public shelters. The government has provided the largest stadium in Beirut has been handed over as shelter. Public schools have been handed over as a shelter, and there's about 120,000 people in those shelters. The rest are staying with friends and family, or those that have the means are staying in hotels, or they're staying in private rented accommodation. Others are sleeping in their cars, and some are sleeping on the streets. And every day that this fighting goes on, more and more people are fleeing, looking for shelter. 800,000 now is about the estimated number of people who are officially recorded as displaced, looking for shelter, trying to flee the fighting. And the longer it goes on, the more people need shelter, and the less chance there is of them getting home soon.
What's the latest in the terms of Hezbollah's response to Israeli attacks?
So Hezbollah has said that it will fight against Israel. There's no indication that Hezbollah is willing to surrender, and in fact, there's no indication that Israel is interested in talking anyway at the moment with Hezbollah
when Lebanon's president reached out to Israel and to Israel via the US and the UN. Israel rebuffed that. Israel more interested in militarily defeating Hezbollah, it seems, at the moment.
All right, Bernard, I think now we can actually see you, or we will in a moment.
Lost the connection.
No, apparently Bernard has lost the connection. So just as we were able to see Bernard, or I could see him here in the studio, we lost the connection to him. So once again, to remind you that there were large explosions and smoke seen in the Lebanese capital, Beirut, while that UN Security Council vote was taking place. The Israeli military has continued to issue forced displacement orders to residents of southern Lebanon. The Lebanese government has said that nearly 800,000 people, including around 200,000 children, have been forced from their homes, adding to the tens of thousands already uprooted from previous escalations. At least 638 people, including 86 children, have been killed and 1,444 others wounded across Lebanon since March 2nd, as the violence has intensified. And the UNHCR has said that more than 80,000 civilians from Lebanon have crossed into Syria. Let's now go back to that UN Security Council vote, which took place a few moments ago. A resolution 2817 passed. It was sponsored by Bahrain, on the behalf of GCC nations who wanted to condemn the almost daily attacks on their territory. Al Jazeera's Gabriel Elizondo is in our UN studio and was listening into that vote and can explain what's going on right now. The representative of Pakistan making a statement. 2817, though, Gabe, itself has been passed. Does that mean that if Iran now continues to attack its Gulf neighbours, it's in contravention of a UN Security Council resolution? But I mean, how much teeth does this resolution have?
Yes, this has now been adopted by the Security Council, so it's a matter of international law now. In terms of how much teeth it has, well, we've seen many cases in history, whether it be in Lebanon or Gaza or Palestine or elsewhere, where countries have rejected UN Security Council resolutions. But this one, I think, is a little different, and let me tell you why. Because it passed with 13 votes in favor, it was adopted. Russia and China chose to abstain rather than use their veto power to block it. But this is interesting. 135 other countries decided to co-sponsor this draft resolution that has now been adopted. 135. Now, we looked back, did a quick Google search and looked back, and we think that this is the most amount of countries ever to co-sponsor a Security Council draft resolution. So 193 members of the United Nations, 135 looked at this GCC Bahrain resolution and said, yep, we agree with that. We'll sign on to that as well. Even though this was only a vote of the Security Council, those other 135 member states couldn't technically vote, but by signing on to it, they essentially voted in favor of it, if you will, at least unofficially. Let's just go to the basics of this resolution. It has three key parts that have now been adopted. It condemns Iran for its attacks against GCC countries. That's number one. Number two, it demands the cessation of hostilities, specifically demands Iran stop attacking GCC countries, including Iran's proxies. And number three, it deplores Iran's targeting of civilian infrastructure, including airports and energy sites as well. So pretty clear resolution. Now we're hearing from some of the member states that voted for it. We might hear from some more countries here. After they are done speaking about this resolution, in the next few minutes, we expect that they will take up a vote on another resolution. This is one sponsored by Russia, and it's more general. It just condemns all attacks. The GCC one just focused specifically on Iran attacks on the GCC. The Russian resolution focuses on all attacks. Doesn't name the U.S. or Israel, but certainly that is the insinuation from the Russian draft resolution. We expect that to come up to a vote before they close this session, so we'll be watching that closely. But the big headline here is that this Bahrain GCC draft resolution passed. It passed overwhelmingly. It was adopted. 13 members of the Security Council voted for it.
Gabe, the Iranian representative is there in the chamber too. Do they get a right of reply? Will we hear from Iran in this session?
They will. And you ask yourself, well, why can Iran respond, but a lot of the other countries can't? Well, we're getting into some technicalities of how the Security Council works, but essentially, if there's a draft resolution that specifically names a country, that country can ask to be part of the meeting. Now, they can't vote. Iran could not vote in this. Israel is also part of this meeting, but they cannot vote. But the reason they're sitting around the horseshoe in the Security Council chambers is because they are a party to this draft resolution. So After the Security Council members give their remarks, then the president of the council, which is the U.S. For this month, will then turn the floor over to Iran. And if Iran wants to speak, they can. So we do expect to hear from Iran in the next few minutes. I can tell you that Iran's ambassador has been speaking to journalists here over the last several days, and he basically has said in the past, and we expect him to say something along the same lines. He's basically going to say, why can they condemn us, but why doesn't this resolution also condemn the United States and Israel for its attacks on Iran? That's likely what we're going to hear from the Iranian ambassador if he chooses to speak here in the next few minutes.
All right, Gabe, we'll be back with you shortly, no doubt. Many thanks indeed, Gabe Elizondo, live at the UN in New York. Back now to that breaking news out of Beirut, the Lebanese capital, where large explosions have been heard within the last half hour or so. Al Jazeera's Bernard Smith is with us in Beirut. Bernard, tell us what happened again.
Adrian, in about I guess the last 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes, there were a series of airstrikes on the southern suburbs behind me, and you're seeing that from those pictures from our other camera. Israel had issued, as it does sometimes, issues forced evacuation orders for particular areas of the southern suburbs that it wants to target, and it did that earlier this evening. A lot of that area already empty of people, to be honest, because there have been so many evacuation orders that people have just left anyway. But anybody who was still there would have heard that, would have left the area if they'd been able to. And then that was a few hours ago, and then those strikes came in pretty quick succession. This area has been hit all week, of course. There were strikes earlier on today as well, and there have been strikes all week since this conflict, since this fighting started now more than a week ago, in tandem with strikes in the southern suburbs of Beirut all day, in the south of Lebanon all day, and there was a strike right in the centre of Beirut much earlier, in the very early hours of this morning, Adrian.
And just remind us, Bernard, quickly, who or what is Israel targeting with these strikes?
Well, Israel always says it's targeting Hezbollah control centres, commander control centres, or Hezbollah operatives or Hezbollah targets. A Hezbollah command and control centre can just be a flat or an apartment block where somebody from Hezbollah happens to have been spotted. There are drones audible over as Israeli spy drones all the time, and they are looking for targets, and Israel will say those are Hezbollah targets, Hezbollah fighters, or Hezbollah infrastructure that they're targeting.